Just before the wedding, the bride decided to get a new phone and ordered it for delivery. However, when the courier rang the doorbell, the groom intercepted the package saying, "Take this to my mother, she's in charge here now." The mother-in-law had already made herself comfortable on the apartment's sofa, helping herself to the bride's chocolates as if she had truly become the rightful owner of someone else's home. But the bride wasn't flustered. Hello, dear listeners. I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel. I present to you a new and interesting story. Enjoy listening. The courier stood at the threshold with a box in his hands, his gaze shifting uncertainly between the groom and the middle-aged woman who was perched on the sofa as if she had been born there. Svetlana Efimovna, Ira's future mother-in-law, didn't even consider getting up. She merely waved her hand as if summoning a waiter in a restaurant and continued to meticulously select liqueur-filled chocolates from the box. Oleg said cheerfully, not even glancing at his bride. Ira froze by the kitchen counter, where she was unpacking freshly purchased groceries. She had ordered the phone herself, using her own card after her old one had completely died. She'd waited 3 days. She was thrilled that she would have time to set it up before the wedding in 2 weeks. The courier clearly didn't understand what was happening. Oleg was already reaching for the box, but Ira was quicker. She walked over, accepted the package, signed the tablet, and escorted the young man to the door. She closed it and turned around. "Thank you, Oleg, you're so thoughtful," Svetlana Efimovna drawled from her throne. "My phone is quite old. It's even embarrassing to post photos." Ira looked at her fiancé, who shrugged. "What's the big deal? Mom has wanted a new one for a while, and I'll buy you one later." Then Oleg's favorite word. Then he'll get a proper job. Then he'll repay what he borrowed last month. Then. Ira smiled with that practice smile she used in the bank's client department when she had to deny particularly persistent loan applicants. Svetlana Efimovna, what a wonderful idea, except for one small problem. The phone is registered in my name and paid for with my card. And, I have a strange habit. I use what I bought myself. But don't be upset. Oleg promised to buy you one. Let him buy it right now. There's a sale at the same store. Svetlana Efimovna stopped chewing. Oleg opened his mouth, but Ira didn't let him get a word in. Silence descended. Svetlana Efimovna slowly rose, majestic as a battleship, preparing for an attack. Quote 7. Quote 8. The groom mumbled, bewildered. Quote 9, quote 10. Ira nodded, unpacking the phone box right before their eyes. Quote 11. She didn't raise her voice, simply stated facts, inserting the SIM card into the brand new smartphone. It all started 3 months ago when Oleg moved in with Ira. Before that, he had been renting a room in a dormitory, temporarily, as he put it, although he had lived there for 4 years. Ira had thought she was helping her beloved get on his feet. After all, he had talent. Oleg was a decent artist, ran a design channel, and promised he would soon start earning from commissions. The first month was idyllic. Oleg made breakfast. They watched series in the evenings and made love with such vigor that the downstairs neighbors tapped on the ceiling with their brooms. Ira believed it was forever. Then he stopped cooking, then stopped cleaning up after himself, then started hinting that the mortgage was a shared responsibility and it would be good for him to be listed as an owner on the documents. "Just in case. We're a family, after all," he would say, puffing out his lips in offense. Ira worked at the bank from 9 to 7, then stopped at the supermarket lugging bags up to the 4th floor because the elevator was always breaking, cooked dinner, did laundry, and cleaned the floors. Oleg, meanwhile, worked at his computer, which meant scrolling through his feed. Sometimes he drew something, but more often he played World of Tanks. "I'm a creative person," he explained. "I need inspiration, and you're always bothering me with trivialities." Trivialities included taking out the trash, washing dishes, and buying bread. Ira thought that after the wedding, everything would change, that Oleg would mature and take responsibility. She had even bought a dress, modest but beautiful, fitting their budget. Oleg hadn't seen it, but he knew how much it cost. Quote 16, he exclaimed indignantly. Quote 17. And then Svetlana Efimovna entered their lives. She rang the doorbell on a Saturday morning when Ira was still asleep after a long week. She entered without an invitation, surveyed the apartment with a critical eye, and the first thing she declared was, quote 18, Svetlana Efimovna got into the habit of visiting every weekend. She never came empty-handed, bringing pies that Oleg adored, and Ira detested. Too greasy, too salty. Quote 19, her mother-in-law would shrug. Quote 20, she would sit on the sofa, turn on the TV, and start commenting on everything. Why were the curtains hung crookedly? Why were the potted plants wilting? Why wasn't Ira pregnant yet? At your age, I had already given birth to Alyoshka, she would say reproachfully. The clock is ticking. Ira was 27 and Oleg was 29, but apparently that didn't count. One day, Svetlana Efimovna arrived with her own key. It turned out Oleg had made her a copy, quote, 23, quote, 24, he explained. Quote, 25, Ira remained silent, then because she loved him, because the wedding was already set, because she thought she could endure it. The main thing was not to conflict. But when she came home from work on Wednesday, not a weekend but a regular weekday, and found her mother-in-law in the kitchen, rummaging through her cupboards, her patience began to run out. She replied imperturbably. Svetlana Efimovna fumed. Quote 31, quote 32, Ira managed to say. Her mother-in-law took offense and slammed the door. Oleg sulked for 2 days afterwards, saying Ira was rude. And today, Svetlana Efimovna arrived with a suitcase. Quote 33, she announced, heading into the bedroom. Oleg brought it in and placed it right in the middle of the bedroom. Ira minded very much, but Svetlana Efimovna had already settled on the sofa with a box of chocolates that Ira had bought for herself the previous day at Dumpling, expensive Belgian ones. And then the courier arrived. After Ira's words about the mortgage, Svetlana Efimovna's face turned crimson. Oleg darted between them like a shuttle, trying to say something, but getting his words tangled. Quote 37, he finally stammered. Quote 38, quote 39, the mother-in-law shrieked. Quote 40, Ira corrected. Quote 41. Ira turned on her phone and began setting it up without looking up. Quote 42. The silence was deafening. Quote 43, Ira, we need to have a serious talk. Mom, let's go to the kitchen. I'll make tea. Ungrateful. I warned you. You've let her get out of hand. She sat on the bed in the bedroom and realized that everything was about to change. And strangely, she wasn't scared. On the contrary, she felt lighter, as if she had finally taken off tight shoes after a long day. Oleg returned 20 minutes later. His face was stony. You've put me in an idiotic situation. I just stated the truth. Mom is in tears. She wanted to help us. And you didn't. Ira laughed. She wanted to move in here and boss everyone around just like she has for the past 3 months. She's lonely. Dad died 5 years ago. I'm her only son, and I understand her. But that doesn't mean I have to put up with her in my apartment. Visit each other, talk as much as you want, but not here, not like this. So, you're choosing between me and Mom? Ira wearily rubbed her forehead. I'm choosing myself, Oleg, for the first time in a long time. And you know what? I like it. Wedding canceled. Come tomorrow for your things. The wedding will not take place for personal reasons. We apologize. Underscore, quote, underscore 51, underscore daughter. What happened? Are you okay? Underscore, quote, underscore 52, underscore, I'm fine, Mom. I just realized I don't want to marry someone who puts his mother above me. Quote, underscore 53. And aren't you afraid of living alone? Ira looked at the empty apartment. Quiet, clean, hers. No, Mom, not at all. Oleg came for his things the next day. He came with his mother, of course. Where else would he be without her? Svetlana Efimovna stood at the door with the air of a victim of repression. Oleg packed his bags in silence. You'll regret this, Quote 56. You won't find another like my Alyoshka anywhere. You're right. Quote 58. And thank God they're gone. Ira changed the locks that same day, called a locksmith, and paid $4,000. The new keys now belonged only to her. Work consumed her completely. Ira took on extra shifts, processed clients, smiled, and solved problems. In the evenings, she came home and reveled in the silence. No one demanded dinner. No one left socks lying around. No one blasted videos at full volume. Her friend Lena dropped by a week later. "How are you? Not sad?" "No," Ira answered honestly. "You know, I thought it would be hard, but instead it's easy. Maybe we should go out somewhere. To cheer you up?" Quote 62. Ira, let's talk. "I understand everything. Mom was wrong, and so was I. I miss you." Ira looked at the message and felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, no longing. Emptiness. Good, calm emptiness. She didn't reply, simply deleted the number and went to the kitchen to make coffee. 3 months later, Ira received a promotion. She was now a senior specialist. Her salary increased by $15,000. The mortgage ceased to be a heavy burden and became simply a line-item expense. There was money for small joys, a gym membership, good cosmetics, a trip to Sochi for the May holidays. One day, while standing in line at the supermarket, she saw Oleg. He was walking with a girl, a young one, about 20, wearing a cheap jacket. The girl was saying something. Oleg nodded absently, scrolling through his phone. Ira turned away. Not out of pain, she just didn't want to talk, but he noticed. "Ira, hi." He approached, leaving the girl at the entrance. "How are you?" "Fine. I heard you got promoted. Well done." "Thanks." A pause. Oleg shifted his weight from foot to foot. "Listen, I wanted to say I'm sorry. I was an idiot. It's okay, Oleg. It happens. Are you seeing anyone?" "That's none of your business. Mom, by the way, was asking about you. Send my regards. My son has found his happiness. Finally, a normal daughter-in-law, not a career woman. You seem so free, like you don't need anything from life except what you already have." Ira pondered. "You know, I just stopped chasing other people's expectations. That's worth a lot." They exchanged contacts. He wrote a week later, suggesting they meet. Ira agreed without any hope, without any plans, just because. They met a few times. A museum, a cafe, a movie. It was easy. But then he left for an expedition to Altai. She got immersed in a project at work and it naturally fizzled out. Ira didn't cling, didn't wait, just lived. In the winter, as the south wind howled outside, Ira sat on the white sofa with a mug of mulled wine and watched an old comedy. On the coffee table lay that very phone, no longer new, having served faithfully for over a year. Nearby were an unread book and a blanket to wrap herself in. Ira suddenly thought of that girl who, a year ago, stood with a box in her hands and dared to say no for the first time. That girl was scared. She didn't know what would happen next. Now Ira knew. What came next was freedom. The phone vibrated. A message from Lena. "Bar tomorrow, celebrating my contract. Coming?" "Of course," Ira replied quickly and smiled. Snow was falling outside the window. The ficus on the windowsill had sprouted a new leaf, and on the sofa, her favorite white sofa, there wasn't a single extraneous candy wrapper.